Alright, so I thought I'd make a little video on this because this is something that you definitely need to listen to if you don't have really a good idea of who to pick, because you could pick any of these characters and they could be absolutely useless to you. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and go through the list of characters that you can possibly get, and I'm gonna go through exactly why you should get each one, or which teams each one is better for. But yeah, let's get right into it. Alright, so your options right here is Beidou, Chongyun, Ningguang, Zhengling, Xingqiu, and Xinyan. Now, the only one that I do not have is Beidou, but I've seen enough of her to know that, first thing, a lot of people are going to be getting these characters specifically for Xiao. So we're going to go ahead and go through and see which ones are best for Xiao, just so that people know. So we're going to start out with Beidou, with me not having her. I would not recommend getting her for Xiao because her elemental burst actually does not work when Xiao is using his plunge attacks. The lightning will not go to any enemies. It just completely sits there and makes it pointless, except for a shield. But I mean, when you're jumping up in the air and plunging down, you don't really need that shield in the first place. So Beidou is not the best choice if you're going to be running Xiao. Now Chongyun, I guess you could pair him with Xiao, but I feel like he's not the best because you do require to be on the ground with him for it to do anything, and it will turn his normal attacks into the cryo, which you don't want. So yeah, Chongyun also probably wouldn't recommend getting that for Xiao. Ningguang, still not really great for Xiao. If you want anyone for Xiao, I would probably go for Zhengling, because she's great at applying pyro everywhere. She's great support. You can also make her as a DPS. You can make her a sub DPS. She can pretty much be made into anything. But yeah, 100%. The main one I would say if you're going for Xiao specifically is go for Zhengling. The other one would be Xingqiu. Again, his elemental burst actually does not work with Xiao when he's plunging, but if you're going for someone separately that isn't for Xiao, Xingqiu is still a great choice. And then Xinyan, I guess she is one of the few ones that can create a shield that also applies pyro that actually activates while Xiao is doing his plunge attack. So she can be a pretty good one. So I think the big ones are between Zhengling and Xinyan. When it comes to which one out of them, it kind of just comes to your own preference. I think Zhengling is better because you don't have to be using that specific character to use their elemental burst. You can just activate Zhengling's elemental burst and then switch to Xiao and start plunging. Now I'm going to talk about which individual ones, if you want to get them individual, whether you want to get certain constellations, things like that. We're going to go ahead and start with Chongyun because I have built him a decent amount. Right now he doesn't have the artifacts or the weapons on that I would usually use him with, but I know enough about him to talk about whether you want to get him. The only reason I would choose this character, it's a difficult character to make really good. He can be decent pretty fast, but you make him a really reliable and viable character, you do have to get a decent amount of artifacts. You have to get a pretty amazing build to make him good. Now the thing is with him, I did get him to level 80. He's a good character. The only reason I would really say go for Chongyun is if you are trying to make a build with Diluc. Because Diluc works great with Chongyun, because Diluc is one of the few characters that doesn't have his attacks turned into cryo when he's in that. So it just speeds up his attacks. So Chongyun is great for Diluc, but otherwise, if you're not going for Diluc, of course, first thing comes first. If you think a character is fun, go for that character. If you really want to build this character, why would you not go for it? I'm just saying, if you want the most effective team, I would probably not go for Chongyun unless you are going to try and make a Diluc team. So the next one, we're going to go ahead and talk about Ningguang, who I'm currently trying to build. Again, doesn't have the right stuff on right now, but nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and talk about her. Ningguang is an amazing character to play with because it's just, she can do everything. She can be a DPS, she can be a support. I think I prefer her as a DPS, and if you have certain weapons for her, that's one of the main reasons why I would say check which weapons you have first, because some of her weapons, I feel like she's one of those characters. So if you don't have a decent weapon for her, she's gonna lose a lot of her effectiveness. And that's why you have to get the Solar Pearl, which that's probably the easiest one you can get because it's from the Battle Pass. Her artifacts are extremely hard to try and get the perfect set because the best set for her is 2-piece Gladiator and 2-piece Archaic Petra, and of course Gladiator is much harder to get perfect stats. Now, so if you're making her as a main DPS, you've already started on this and you just need her first or second constellation, 100% go for it. This first one is a game changer. When a normal attack hits, it deals AoE damage, which is great for her because you're going to need this. If you're trying to make a DPS build, that's why when it comes to me getting it, I just started making this build. I'm going for Ningguang because I have all the other characters, or Beidou I don't really want. So yeah, for me, I'm going to be going for this. The second one is also crazy good. When Jade Screen is shattered, its cooldown will reset. So that's also a great one to have. The first two are the most important ones for Ningguang. But yeah, if you're trying to make a build out of her, 100% get the constellation. That's the only one on here that I would really recommend going for the constellation for a lot of these. But Ningguang is a super fun character to use, both DPS and support. So I would recommend getting her if you want the most fun character. And again, these are opinions, but I think she's the most fun character to build. Now, talking about Xiangling separately, again, don't have anything good on her right now, but I've used her a decent amount. For DPS, she's great. For support, I feel like she's better as a support. A lot of people, you don't see too many people making a DPS build out of her, even though it is very possible to make one out of her. Her artifacts, you don't really need too many artifacts. I'm saying if you need a character that is the best support or DPS, for Xiao specifically, I would go for Xiangling. But I think that's about it. Because once we have Xiangling, and you don't want to go for Xiao, the better one I feel like would be Xingqiu. Because he can also be a DPS and a support, but I think he's better as a support and better as a DPS when it comes to almost every other character besides Xiao. Now his abilities, again, artifacts don't really do much, and also Xingqiu is a healer as well. He's got everything. Now if you already have Xingqiu and you just want Constellation, this first one is an amazing one that you definitely need. Increases the maximum number of rain swords by 1, which means that you're going to get better healing, better shielding, and better damage. So yeah, this one, if you want to get the first constellation, if you want a character that's all around a great character, can be a DPS, carry, you know, it can be a support, healer. That's the thing. This is the only one on here that can also be a healer. So yeah, 100% if you want one that can do everything and you're kind of limited on who you have, so you just need to get someone that can do everything, go for Xingqiu. Xinyan, I usually use her as a sub DPS because she's so easy to build. If you have someone and you're limited on time, you know, materials, things like that, Xinyan can be a great one. A lot of the swords that she uses, the same ones that you would use on Chongyun or Razor. So if you have either one of those already, those swords will usually work on her. Her artifacts super easy to get because they don't really base on anything. You can pretty much just put whatever you need to get more attack, crit damage, and the normal things that you would usually put on Razor, really. These first two, I got these by... I didn't even try to get these, but I mean, these first two are some pretty great constellations to have for Xinyan. And I would say these are probably needed if you want to do Xinyan. But the only reason I would really pick Xinyan over anyone else is if you just want a new character to mess around with. She's a good character, but she's nothing special. If I'm talking about how capable she is of taking different roles or being able to do damage. If I'm trying to make a build that has damage, I would probably still go for Xingqiu. Honestly, like, his build isn't that hard to make, but he has insane burst damage once you do build it. So yeah, that's the main characters that I'm going to be going over. If I'm going to say which one to go for, if you want the most effective one to get, I would go for Xiao, because he's all around. If you need the first constellation, still get him, because you need this first constellation to get his full potential. The rest of these are not as important. If you can get more, that's cool, but if I would probably only recommend going for his constellation if you need the first constellation. Now, see, a lot of these depend on specific teams that you're going for, so don't take my video as like a definite thing. Oh yeah, I need to get Xiao then. 100% look into each individual character, make sure you know which teams you're going to be building, because otherwise you're going to end up making the wrong choice. But if you want a character that can pair with just about every team other than Xiao, 100% Xiao would be my choice. I think he works for just about anything. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Peace.